for news that's short, sharp and
Are
shrewd.
you talking about the podcast or me?
Both.
Backhanded compliment.
This is Up Late with Ben Harvey. This might be a dumb question, but if critical minerals really are critical...
Why do we need the government to give free money to the companies which are producing them?
Yeah.
It's not a dumb question, it's a very good question. And one that Scott Morrison probably didn't pause to ask himself because he was too excited to tell us about how his government was supporting the industries of the future.
And our goal is to make Australia a critical minerals powerhouse.
Morrison used his address at a business breakfast on Wednesday morning to talk about his government giving financial support to companies involved with the extraction and processing of
Rare earths and critical minerals. Critical minerals, demand for critical minerals around critical minerals.
By now, even those of us who have forgotten what a periodic table looks like would understand that critical minerals are the hard-to-find elements that go into products that are critical to modern life. With Anthony Albanese on the other side of the country in Queensland and Mark McGowan still in isolation, enjoying being in Parliament whilst nude from the waist down, it was ScoMo's time to shine, and he brought his knee pads.
It's what I love about Western Australia. We know that WA resources sector is a pillar of economic strength for our nation, and it's why I love coming back here over and over again and have done so well before I even went into Parliament.
Morrison was talking about the Australian government's critical minerals strategy, which is part of the Modern Manufacturing Initiative, which is a subsect of the Modern Manufacturing Strategy, which is a sister policy of the Global Resources Strategy.
Can't stop now. You wouldn't believe the reaction this is getting.
Well, you're not going to lose a vote in this town by supporting the resources sector.
And I'm with him on that. But as you asked earlier, if something really is that critical to the next industrial revolution, if it's going to be in such high demand...
It is critical. Absolutely critical.
Then surely the companies mining and refining the stuff would be fending off investors, especially in WA. You can't slide a cigarette paper between a small cap mining punter and a decent share listing over here.
You tell a man, Blue Horseshoe loves Anacon steel.
We will throw money at anything if there's a sniff of profit.
Come on! Put it all on 41. I get a feeling about that number.
The wheel only goes to 36.
Put it all on 36. I've got a feeling about that number.
If a spiv in West Perth chasing the next 10 bagger isn't willing to put their hands in their pockets and buy some stock, that should be a little warning sign to the government.
Well, they're sinking a bucket load into it, so who gets the money?
Morrison's giving $119.6 million to a company called Pure Battery Technologies. This money will help it build an integrated nickel manganese cobalt battery material refinery hub somewhere near Kalgoorlie.
Don't try and say that too quickly.
PBT put out a press release saying it was excited about the announcement. I'd be pretty excited too by $119 million. Governments generally lend assistance to companies if their projects are worthy but expensive, risky and complicated. Here's what PBT says about its technology in its own corporate video.
The process we have is very simple, straightforward, and that means that it's easy to do and inexpensive to run.
Mate, if it's that simple, straightforward, easy and inexpensive, why do you need my tax dollars to make it work? PBT's partner in the refinery hub is a business called Poseidon Nickel. Poseidon counts a company called Wyloo Metals as a major investor. Wyloo owns 12%, and Wyloo is owned by this guy. It's one of 6 businesses in Andrew and Nicola Forrest's flagship holding company, Tatarang. Twiggy's been backing Poseidon for years. He convinced them to change the name from Niagara Mining. He wanted to emulate the extraordinary share run of the company of the same name 50 years ago. It's one of Australia's legendary mining stories, up there with Paddy Hannon discovering gold at Kalgoorlie. In 1969, prospector Ken Shirley finds nickel 28 clicks from Laverton. Shares in his company go from 80 cents to $280 in 6 months. 1 year later, the stock's down to $39 and the company collapsed 6 years after that, such is the story of WA Resources. The new Poseidon was in a trading halt after news broke of ScoMo's largesse. But when it comes out of that trading halt and people can pile in, this thing and Twiggy's 12% will go mental. And that'll happen just in the nick of time for Andrew, who is down to his last $27 billion.
So what other companies get some cash?
Lazy $49 million is going to Australian Vanadium, will help get its vanadium mine near Meekatharra up and running. Also wants to build a vanadium pentoxide processing plant near Geraldton. Apparently, and I'm quoting from a news report on this, The vanadium pentoxide product will subsequently be processed into vanadium electrolyte to fill vanadium redox flow batteries at the company's proposed vanadium electrolyte manufacturing plant.
I have no idea what that means.
I think they're building a flux capacitor.
Great Scott!
Shares in Australian Vanadium closed up 40%, which probably pleased the board of directors, who probably have a shit ton of stock and options. Another $30 million will go towards Arafura Resources, which wants to develop the first rare earth separation plant that's outside China, called the Nolans Project, and it's in the Northern Territory. Arafura's stock closed up 15%. The rest of the market was only up 1%. It closed up 15%. Also up 15% was Alpha HPA, a company that makes ultra-high purity aluminium products. Its stock rocketed after news came out it would receive $45 million from the ever-generous Australian taxpayer. The good news for the execs at Alpha HPA is they can finally afford a diversity and inclusivity officer.
They're the same picture.
Using the word alpha quite literally there.
Well, they obviously won't make the gender equality choice list.
Probably not. Of the 120 companies ranked on the federal government's Workplace Gender Equality Agency's Employer of Choice list, a grand total of 3 are from WA, proving once again that West Australian business remains a nation-leading sausage fest.
Well, they've got their own problems across the border.
In the past 24 hours, New South Wales has recorded more than 30,000 COVID cases, almost 100,000 in the past week. There's now 1,000 people in hospital. Further south, Victoria's had 10,000 cases, 200 in hospital. We're grappling with this new subvariant BA2, which goes by the 80s horror film name of Son of Omicron. Early reports suggest it could be 30% more contagious. And in more good news for Baron O'Day, it seems COVID is becoming drug resistant. It's mutating. Jeff Goldblum was right.
Simply saying that life finds a way.
6,062 new cases in WA, 123 West Australians in hospital. That's double last week. A quarter of those cases are the BA2 variant. The government's not saying how many people in hospital today with COVID have been vaccinated, but last month, when shit really started getting real, half of the patients in hospital were not. 2% of the population that wasn't jabbed accounted for almost 50% of COVID hospital admissions. Anti-vaxxers, you can dispute the science, but surely you can't dispute the maths.
They will. They definitely will.
And if you do, it's not just minerals that might end up being critical.
He's in critical condition.
Now we've got a teenager in critical condition.
Doctors describe his condition as critical.
The other one's upstairs in critical condition.
I'm Ben Harvey. If you'd like to watch Up Late with me, Ben Harvey, search for The West Australian on YouTube.